Hello, good evening, everyone. It's me again, Adrian, your host tonight. And tonight we have managed to invite Golden Agri-Resources to be with us, and it's Director of Investor Relation, Dr. Richard Fung. He has been with the firm, Golden Agri-Resources, since 2008. I must be imagining it's a very good company to be in because I might not be able to fight his record. Yeah, and also Pintar, the investor of the team, part of the team is here also. But before we start and dive into Golden Agri-Resources, which is an Indonesian-based company that is listed in SGX, this is why it is really interesting. Normally, we always hear the name of IOI, KLK, and we are always seeing from our own turf. And tonight we get to see a very big player, very international, that has the full spectrum of things, from the upstreams to the downstream, and definitely would love to find out more. But before we start, there's a bit of a housekeeping and also some ground rules. The first thing I'm going to share here is actually a disclaimer screen. I believe those that have been following us for a while, you know what to do. Uh, Print it out, hang it on your door before you attend one of our webinars. And wow, you will remember it's a disclaimer. And we are always here with you guys on this investment journey, and we are all learning new things together. And the next slide will be a bit of a promotion. I'll need your help to actually pick up your phone, scan a little Kenanga box there, and it will take you to this text box here on your phone. And this is where you can actually follow us very closely on our Facebook, on LinkedIn. Sometimes I do a bit of amusing ramblings there. Our Instagram is a bit more fun, like our TikTok. Sometimes I think you can spot me there also, like the part-time pelakon a bit, right? And our YouTube. So our YouTube actually helps the those that have not been able to join the session. Like tonight's session will be uploaded after tonight. Yeah, probably within the week. And most importantly, we have two Telegram channels that I actually pin it on the chat box. One is our Naga warrants. For those a bit more savvy, want a bit of leverage and make a bit more money, but you need to manage the risk a bit more. That's the call and put options and warrants for you. And the other one will be Kenanga Trade to Win, where there will be a lot of trade ideas in there, very short-term to mid-term types. So do follow. And okay, I shall not take much more time, and I shall pass the floor to Richard and Pinta. And yeah, Pinta probably can share your slides and we shall roll.
Thank you very much, Adrian.
You're welcome.
So we'll start with a company presentation that will take about 20 minutes, and after that we have plenty of time for Q&A.
Sorry, I have technical problem here with that.
No worries. Let me know. Probably I can share too.
All right.
Fantastic. We can see the slide. Yep.
Great. Okay, so this is the overview of Golden Agri. Golden Agri-Resources was listed on the Singapore Exchange in 1999, and it is one of the largest vertically integrated palm oil producers in the world. The main products of the company are palm related, but we also have some soybean and sunflower oil based products, as well as sugar trading. The soybean and sunflower we don't grow ourselves. That is all downstream business. But the palm oil, we have our own plantations. They're all based in Indonesia, with a total size of about 530,000 hectares, producing about 10 million tons of fruits, 3 million tons of palm product per year. So we also have a global presence. The refining capacities outside of Indonesia are in China and India, and we also distribute our products over more than 100 countries, where we in the major ones we have sales representative offices and extank operations. So we can go to the next slide.
Sorry,
Well,
Adrian, I think I need your help to share
oh,
the PowerPoint. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
okay, no problem. While we are at it, I mean, how interesting that Golden Agri has been listed in SGX since 1999.
Right. Yeah, correct.
Oh my God, I'm still in my primary school, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
And has the company evolved into downstream at that point of listing, or it has just took off? Probably. Do you want me to help you share?
Yes, if you can. Yeah, actually, I also have the file, but I don't know how to share. So if you can
Okay.
try. Otherwise, oh, I got a button here. You want me to try?
Yeah, can.
Okay, sure. Hold on. Where's my computer? It's actually already open, so how do I?
Just to reply Ken while we are waiting, yes, Ken, we will have a replay link on YouTube once we have done the session.
Okay, it seems I have to close the file first. And then...
No, you know what, Richard? Let me try. Okay, is this good for you?
Yep, yep.
Okay, let me move on. Okay, let's jump. Okay, yeah, here.
Okay. Is there any, can you make it larger?
Okay, let me try.
Yes, okay. Okay, this is, yeah, maybe,
A bit more.
yeah, can you, or say like a, yeah, okay, okay, this will do, this will do. Thanks. So what you see here is is a flowchart of our core operations in Indonesia, and you can see here the vertical integration, where we have everything from developing our own planting material, the seedlings for the oil palm tree that we develop ourselves, then all the way down to the end consumer product. So as I mentioned, 532,000 hectares planted, and all the fruits we harvest ourselves and we mill in our own mills. We have a capacity of 14 million tons of milling capacity. The mills produce on the one hand the CPO, the crude palm oil, and more than 90% of the crude palm oil that we produce ourselves is refined in our 6 refineries with a capacity of 5 million tons. This is a lot more than what we produce ourselves, and that's because we also buy from third parties, smaller operators surrounding our plantations that typically do not have the refining capacity themselves. Then the CPO, and in recent years we have also added 2 biodiesel plants, currently with a capacity of 1 million tons. And they produce the biodiesel. The refineries produce mostly cooking oil, margarine, shortening, and specialty fats. The other product that comes out of the mill, when we mill the fruit, is the palm kernel, the seed of the fruit. And we have 9 kernel crushing plants, where we crush the kernel into palm kernel oil and palm kernel meal. The meal is used by animal feed producers, while the palm kernel oil can be further processed in our oleochemical facilities. into fatty acids and alcohols, glycerins, soap noodles, mostly used in cosmetics and detergents. And then last but not least, as I mentioned, we have our own distribution network, international sales offices and extec operations, as I mentioned, as well as the overseas refining capacity. Okay, next slide, please. So the next section is about our key strengths, summarized on this slide, but I'll go through them one by one. So on the next slide is the first one. So if we can go to the next slide, and I'll discuss the first key competitive advantage, which is our best-in-class plantations with managed age profile that continues to deliver above industry yields. So the reason why we can achieve such high yields is because of the technology that Golden Agri applies to its upstream in the form of precision agriculture with actually it comes later in the presentation, so I'll discuss it in a moment. We also have the research and development where we develop the high yielding seeds, mechanization of the farming, the harvesting process and distribution in order to reduce costs, as well as digitization and also artificial intelligence. These are newer technologies that also help us to increase our worker productivity. So the results you can see in the middle graph. Yields have come down across the industry over the past decade or so, and the reason for this is that because of concerns regarding sustainability, there is virtually no expansion of palm oil plantations anymore, which means that every year less mature trees come on stream, and that is resulting in the lower yields. Nonetheless, you can see that Golden Agri outperforms both the Indonesian and Malaysian average yields by 24 and by 18 and 24% respectively. The age profile you can see in the pie chart on the right hand side. Currently 16% of our trees are in the young and immature stage, and these more recently planted plantations are using the high yielding seeds, and that's where our growth will come from in the coming years. And by continuing to use these high yielding seeds, we believe that we can continue to increase our production even if our total planted area remains the same. 58% of our trees are in their prime years, between 7 up to 25 years, and that's where the strong cash flows are generated. And then 26% of our trees are old, and actually the cash flow is still very strong on these because they require less or no fertilizer, and their yields are still good. The problem is that the tree continues to grow taller and taller and becomes more difficult to harvest. So that's why we have an active replanting program targeting about 20,000 hectares per year, so that the proportion of old trees will remain constant, and also the new and immature trees will continue to contribute to the growth of the company. Next slide, please. So the next competitive strength of Golden Agri is the integrated business model that provides a robust profit base. So if you're only focused on the upstream, then of course you become very dependent on the CPO price, which historically has been volatile. So what you can see in the graph on the left-hand side is that the downstream has has continued to increase its contribution to EBITDA. And as a result, we see more stable financial performance from Golden Agri as opposed to in the past when we were more dependent on CPO price. So the downstream provides us additional opportunity to obtain margin from other value-added services, but it also protects the upstream margin because if you reach the size of Golden Agri, then traders, you know when your inventories are full, and they will command a discount. So if you have your own refining and distribution, then you are creating a better bargaining position, and you will not be squeezed in the margin.
Yep. I do agree with that.
Thanks.
Shall we jump to the next slide?
Yes, please. Yeah, so sustainability has become a very key topic for the palm industry, as you know, and Golden Agri, as one of the largest players, has always aimed to be at the very forefront of basically proving that palm oil can be produced in a sustainable manner. So, so here are 3 initiatives that are actually just updates of recent developments. One is that, of course, we now have the climate concern and the net zero aim by 2050. So Golden Agri has committed to that, and we are developing a plan to work towards the carbon neutral targets. Then the other factor is traceability to the plantation in the center. So initially, palm oil plantations were held responsible for the palm oil that they were producing themselves, but that has since been extended as large operators like Golden Agri, about 2/3 of what we sell is actually bought from third parties. And we are now also responsible for monitoring the sustain, whether the third-party palm oil is produced in a sustainable manner. And that is a very large task because we're dealing with thousands of smallholders. And but over the last couple of years, we've made significant progress, and now more than 99% of all the palm oil that we sell is traceable, not just to the mill, but actually all the way down to the plantation. So that allows us to provide palm oil that can be proven to come from sustainable plantations. And the benefit of this is that certain premium customers, like companies like Unilever, Nestle, they are prepared to pay premium for that oil. And it also puts Golden Agri in a good position to meet the upcoming requirements, the no deforestation requirements coming out of Europe, where we also have to segregate the palm oil to prove that it comes from sustainable plantations. And then finally, the community work continues. I mean, Golden Agri has always played a very important role in helping local communities that work on the plantation or live around the plantation, in the form of providing healthcare. We build hospitals, we build schools, and various other infrastructure projects to help these people. But we recently have started other projects where we actually teach the farmers to grow sustainable products like organic products, cash crops, livestock farming, and that way they can basically sustain themselves, help themselves to earn a higher income.
That's
yeah, go ahead.
That's very interesting on the last part, because even for our workers is heading towards the direction of self-sustainability, right? That's part of the aim.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, for example, these small holders, they typically have this subsistence farming, right, where they rely on slash and burn. And that, of course, results in the haze problems that we've had in the past. So this way, we help these people to avoid these kind of environmental issues.
Okay, that's a very interesting info. Okay, let's jump to the next one.
Yeah, so I already mentioned that science and technology is one of the key drivers for Golden Agri to sustain its competitive advantage. And we were also one of the first, and probably still the first company that has introduced a management information system at the scale of Golden Agri. So what we do is that the 530,000 hectares that we have planted is about 6 times the size of Singapore, to give you some idea. And we want to precision manage all these plantations, this enormous area. And we do that through this system where we divide our plantations into blocks of 30 hectares, which contains about 4,000 trees. And each plantation is divided into these 30 hectare blocks, and the data in terms of how many trees are there, how old they are, what family of trees they are. All this data is collected and then uploaded through a satellite system, and then processed by Golden Agri, so that we can determine exactly how many harvesting rounds they need, what kind of fertilizer they need, and so on. And that allows Golden Agri to reach these above average, above industry average yields. So the new technologies like artificial intelligence and big data, of course, are a big help for Golden Agri, given the size of the data that we collect. So so that's for the upstream, and other than that, of course, as I mentioned already, the mechanization for cost reduction. In the downstream, we use technology to develop new products. We see a move, a trend among consumers that they want more sustainably produced and more healthy products. So that is something that we try to be at the forefront as well. And then the technology also helps us in the logistics network, of course. The planting materials I mentioned. The final thing here is that we do not just do this by ourselves. We also team up with technology partners to have access to the latest developments in this field.
Right.
And then last but not least is the strong financial position and consistent dividend distribution. So the business has always shown strong cash flows, as you can see on the left-hand side, and we've also been able to delever and to improve our financial ratios over the past decade or so. And this has gone hand in hand with stable dividend distribution as well.
That's awesome.
So then the final section, oh no, not the final. This is the business strategy and outlook, and most of it I already discussed, so I'll be brief on this. In the upstream, the plantations, the main aim is yield intensification through the best practices in agronomics, and then we also have the high yielding seeds, the clonal materials that we have developed in-house as a major driver of our productivity improvement. And then on the other hand, the cost efficiencies through mechanization and automation. On the downstream, it's the value-added products. Now that we have our own global distribution network, we have a direct contact with the end consumer, as opposed to selling FOB at the Indonesian ports as we used to the large traders like Cargill and Wilmar and Grace Foods and so on. So so that now means that we can customize our products for the end user, and that allows us to obtain a higher margin. So then a quick word about the industry outlook. So industry outlook remains favorable. The fundamentals are strong, and that is because we see a slowdown in the supply growth of edible oils. Palm oil, as mentioned, because of the lack of new plantings, and also the delay in the replanting from most of our peers. means that we see a slowdown in production growth, quite dramatic. Over 10 years ago, we used to grow at high single-digit rates per year. We're now down to less than 5% per year, low single digits, which is comparable to the other seed oils. And this is, of course, exacerbated by the global weather conditions and also the geopolitical conflicts that we see, like Ukraine and the Red Sea and so on. So that's on the supply side. On the demand side, we do see continued growth for food and oleochemicals, as standards of living continue to rise, populations continue to rise. But another important offtake channel is the biodiesel, which continues to grow globally. And for palm oil, of course, not in the least because of the very successful biodiesel program in Indonesia. But we also see continued growth of the blending mandates in the US and Brazil, which of course is mostly for the soybean there. Nonetheless, this takes vegetable oil from the market, and that supports the prices. And that's why we've seen very stable prices. Of course, not as high as what we saw in 2022, but the 800 to 900 US dollars we're seeing right now is still well above the average that we've seen in the decade before that. And this is something that we think can be sustained and will continue to gradually increase.
Richard, just to check with you, I saw your capex for 2024 is about 300 million US, and can you share a bit of a breakdown where this portion of the 300 will be deployed? I will suppose will be the plants, and also subsequently on the future context, would it be like budget of 300 million per year kind of thing, or it should taper?
So 200-300 is what we've been seeing over the last couple of years for Golden Agri, which is much lower than it used to be. We used to spend 400-500 million when we were still expanding in the upstream and the downstream. But this expansion has been pretty much completed. We believe we now have a good balance between our upstream and downstream capacity, so that new capex is primarily in the upstream, and it's about 50-50 when it comes to the 300 million. Where half of it is for the replanting. So we are replanting, targeting about 20,000 hectares per year, which may further increase in the coming years. And then the other half of the capex is for the downstream. Here we are, we're not expanding in the bulk refining aggressively like we used to. That is completed, but we are continuing to expand in the specialty higher value added refined products like the oleochemicals, the biodiesel. Those are areas that we still see expansion, but they are not as capital intensive, and that's why we think that the capex budget will remain around this level. The remainder of the capex is for the enhancement of the logistics network, so the facilities that we have in the destination markets, and then some replacement capex for the downstream facilities.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. So then final section, financial performance. And so the latest, we had a limited disclosure for the first quarter, and we have a more complete disclosure for first half, which will be released on 13th of August.
Very soon.
But yeah, exactly. So the first quarter, we did see a bit of a decline, not so much in the revenue, was stable, but we did see the earnings come down. This was mostly because of foreign exchange loss, high interest expense, as well as the seasonality of some general and administrative expenses. So that was just a timing where it fell in the first quarter as opposed to the second quarter the year before. So basically nothing in the core business that caused the decline.
Okay. Next one.
So segmental results. So we only do this on a half-year basis. So we only have here the comparison between 23 and 22. And yeah, so as I mentioned, in 22 we had very high CPO prices. And you can see the price came down by 28% in 23, but still at 900 US per ton, right? So basically we call it a normalization of the price rather than a decline.
Yep.
So that was the main reason why we saw lower results. Fruit production also came down. That was well, you know, we think fruit production for Golden Agri will be modest or moderated over the coming years because of the aggressive replanting program, but also weather conditions can have an impact. For example, first part of 2023 we had very heavy rainfall, and then later we had the so that impacted 2023 results. But then later in the year we had the El Nino, which has some impact on this year's production results.
Okay.
All right. So for Golden Agri, we think compared to last year there will probably be a slight decline in production, but nothing major.
But the good thing is your oil extraction rate is still that good. Yeah.
Yeah. So oil extraction rate and
Very
the yield
consistent.
in general, yeah, remains favorable, especially compared to our peers. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Then the downstream. So downstream, as I mentioned, continues to be a stabilizing factor. We had exceptional EBITDA margin in 2022 of 9%, but in 2023 we achieved 5%, and we believe that 5% is very healthy and something that we will be able to continue to sustain also for this year and in the coming years, and hopefully continue to improve slightly as we move to the higher value-added products.
Right. So are you excited about the upcoming first half results? Or is it again? I can see a smile there. So
No,
well,
honestly, I haven't seen them yet. You know, to be honest with you, I'm not even. I mean, that's really true, and that makes it easier for me, obviously. You know, otherwise we need a blackout. You know, we wouldn't even be able to have this meeting, right? So
yeah, I
so
think
I
that's
don't
the
know
best
yet.
for
I don't know
everyone.
yet. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, the major drivers of our results are the CPO price, the production, and the cost of production. And CPO price, yeah, it's been stable, 800 to 900 US, as I mentioned. Production, slightly lower than last year, and then cost of production, also stable or maybe even slightly lower because in 2023 we were still using the some of the expensive fertilizer that we bought in 2022, right, when everything was expensive, because we typically buy 6 months in advance. So since that time, fertilizer prices have come down, and that also lowers our cost of production.
Okay.
So net, you know, we hope that the results will not be very different from what we achieved last year.
Right.
The final slide here is the financial position, which remains strong, as you can see in the first quarter of this year as well, with most of the ratios either stable, like the current ratio, or improving, like debt to equity and net debt over EBITDA.
Okay.
All right, that
Okay.
completes the presentation.
I mean, it's just like your Golden Agri's operation, and Richard, I must commend you on that efficient,
All right, thank you.
very efficient presentation. But so now that I think Richard has shared a very quick glance on Golden Agri and how it is in from the top to bottom and even business, probably we can start taking some questions from the floor. For those that have burning questions, you can actually put it in the chat box. Let me try to load it. And yes, Kente, I hope I've replied you earlier. We will have a replay. Please do put in your questions here. So if there's not much of a question from the floor, probably I throw some of mine. Oh, there's one from Ting Chuan, Ku Ting Chuan. Great presentation. Love the science and tech slide. A bit more in sustainably practice RSPO, biogas, and the use of EFB and oil palm trucks. This is a pro, I think. I mean, yeah.
Yes, yeah. These are definitely hot topics when it comes to sustainability. So when it comes to RSPO, I think about half of our plantations roughly are RSPO certified, as well as ISPO, this is the Indonesian standard, as well as the other one, ISSB. You know, so all these standards we have certification, but yeah, for RSPO it's only about half of our plantations, which you know, should have been much higher already. And unfortunately, the RSPO certification process is quite onerous, and yeah, and in most cases, unfortunately, the ball is not really in our corner. You know, it has to do with the land ownership, where I think RSPO requires HGU, which is the final license. But in Indonesia, you typically get an operational license, and you know we've been operating our plantations for decades on a operating license, which is you know a step before the final license. But you know there's no precedent of any plantations ever been taken back, you know, because of not having the final license. So the administrative process is lengthy in Indonesia, and that's why you know some of this unfortunately has not been finalized yet. But you know we do target to reach 100% RSPO certification in a time-bound plan. So that's RSPO. Yeah, biogas. You know, definitely the mill effluents we are capturing, and we are building. We already have several biogas plants, and we are continuing to expand those. So that you know we have a plan. As I already mentioned, we committed to this net zero task, and you know we have all these sustainability reporting requirements, right? Where you have to talk about your carbon emission and your plan to reduce that. So one of the ways is through this biogas, and we are definitely continuing to expand on that. Yeah, so yeah, they call this. I mean, for Golden Agri, we've always had a zero waste policy. You know, we use everything. So for the fruits, when we crush the fruits, the effluent. So now we capture the biogas, but even before that, we would pump the effluent back to the surrounding plantations as natural fertilizer, so it wouldn't go to waste. And then the shells, you know, we would use them for example, the kernel shell, right? For example, to fortify the roads. The empty fruit bunches, we for the longest time, for decades already, I think we've been putting them back on the plantations, also as organic fertilizer. So, and then we also use the shells to burn the to create electricity for the mills. So basically, and now they call it this circular economy, right? So basically everything is used and reused. There's basically no loss, and that is good because it's environmentally sustainable, but it's also, it just makes good business sense, right? I mean, you just have the highest margins by reusing everything.
Richard, just coming back on the burning of and also biogas, do you have a target on how on your capacity of the electricity being generated, like how many megawatt and how many years through this practice?
I think we haven't set the formal targets yet. We are in the process of doing that.
Okay.
You know, so I think in some countries they put the electricity back into the net, but I think Indonesia it's not that developed because you know they are mostly in remote locations, right? So we use the electricity ourselves mostly. So it is to power our own facilities.
Okay. I was glancing through the slides earlier, right? Let me reshare the slides. Biogas is a question that I wanted to ask. Ying Chuan jump through it. Okay. Coming back to your slides here. Dun, dun, dun. Can you share a bit more on how these drones and your ballroom acts is it in the field or yeah, I'm just curious because I've never really imagined. I know the lower in crops is easy because but probably it's for survey for the drones on how do you use it?
How we use the management information system.
Yeah.
So as you may know, the palm tree is harvested every week, right? Because it's not like a season; it's basically producing fruits all year through. And
Yeah.
every week or so, you have to check which of the fruit bunches are ripe, and those are the ones you cut off, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
so basically, this system allows us to see exactly how many harvesting rounds have taken place. It shows you. And then, for example, the fruit bunches that are harvested from a specific block on a certain date, the number of fruit bunches is inputted into the system. Then the truck that takes the fruits to the mill also goes on a weighing bridge, before it leaves the plantation and then
Ah,
before it enters the mill, to ensure that there's no leakage along the way, right? And then the output of the mill is also dependent on the input of how many fruits go in there. So basically, you have checks and balances along the production process, and that
wow.
very much helps to avoid leakage or pilferage or what you want to call it, right? So it really allows you to micromanage, which is something that is considered very important, to micromanage, to really stay on top of the process so that nothing gets lost along the way. Same with fertilizer. If you know exactly how much
Yeah,
fertilizer is applied, because fertilizer also easily gets stolen,
yeah.
So
The privileges of the fertilizer is quite rampant in the field. Yeah, I
exactly.
mean in
So
plantation per se lah.
yeah. But in this system, you basically know, okay, this block has so many trees of this age, of this type of seed, so we know how much it is supposed to produce. So the moment there's a shortfall, then we will send a team, to find out, okay, what's going on? Is it, is the harvesting not taking place efficiently, or is the fertilizer not being applied? And just by avoiding this kind of leakage, that helps us to achieve these high yields.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. So let me try to get an idea. It's like now you are also having your downstream giving a very good boost, but in the next 5 years, well, I mean the upstream is to maintain the input, right? But where would the actual focus of the business would be? Would it be more downstream centric going forward with the R&D going on, or yeah,
Yeah, no, that is true. I mean, the days of being able to expand your plantations and focus on the upstream where the margins are obviously the biggest, those days are over. We don't see that return simply because of the
okay,
sustainability concerns um, that we have these days. So all we can do is, with the land that we have, try to intensify. Try to make it more efficient, lower cost production, and higher yield. So that's for the upstream, but it's a tree, right? It's not like soybeans or rapeseed where you have a few harvests per year. In this case, it's a tree which takes many years to grow,
yep,
and every change in the upstream um, takes a number of years. So that's why you are correct that I think the focus in terms of growth is really in the downstream. I think in the downstream there's still a lot of opportunity in terms of using the palm oil, which has many favorable characteristics, to make it more popular in the world, because we believe it can compete very well with the Western seed oils. For example, of course, it is first of all already the cheapest oil to produce compared to the others.
yep,
Um, the highest yield per hectare,
yielding.
so the lowest pressure on the land. And it also is one of the healthier ones because of its the lack of trans fatty acids. right? Which has become which is increasingly recognized as the primary concern of edible oils. So I think the problem with palm is that 85% is coming out. Well, actually, all palm production is coming out of tropical countries, which are remote, from the Western markets, So, which unfortunately, and then they are competing with the Western oils, right? So that unfortunately makes it an easy target for misinformation, right, about palm oil. So this is something that that we think will continue to improve, and as the true qualities and the sustainability of palm oil becomes more known among the public, then we believe it will allow palm to be used in premium products.
I mean, Richard, for scientific values apart, I'm total bias on palm oil. I'm Malaysian.
Yeah, you know what I'm
Enough said.
talking about.
Yeah, but having the jokes aside, right, coming back to your age profile, I'm just curious. When you're using your new seedlings, right, the first question will be how much more of that yield from the new seeds, like from as compared to the old, is it like enhancement by 10 to 20%? And the second question would be on your 26% of the old trees that is more than 25 years old, uh, you're sharing that about 20% replacement per year, about 20 over 1,000 hectares. So that would be, you're looking at about 6 years to actually replace the entire plot of the 26%.
Yeah, that's right. Of course, old mature. I mean, the mature trees will continue to move into old, right? So that's why I think. I mean, 26 is a bit high right now, and that was simply because of timing, because most of the replanting takes place in the in the later part of the year when the weather conditions are better. But we try to keep, around 20% or so, ideally around 20% old and 20% young and immature. I think that's the balance we're looking for. And
Okay.
it requires us to replant about 3% of our trees per year.
Okay. Okay.
So that's the
Uh,
target.
Coming
Uh,
back to the new breeds of trees, right?
yes,
How
oh yeah,
much
the
more
yield.
yield?
Yeah, correct. So what I mean, as you may know, and this is also has been happening in Malaysia, the initial way to improve the yield of the seeds that, originally you had these pure breed, like Marihat,
Yep.
those, and then
Yep.
they started crossbreeding. By crossbreeding you could get the best qualities of different families of fruits, and that increased the yields already by about 20% or so. And those are the seeds
Oh,
that we have been using over the past,
okay.
in the previous generation, so to say. But what we found was through this crossbreeding, some of the trees turned into super trees that did much better than other trees. And what we've been able to do is through tissue culture, we've been able to clone those trees. So this does not
Oh,
involve any genetic modification, it is still the original genetics, but we basically make a carbon copy of a super tree so that we can create a whole plantation of super trees. And
that's a
these
new.
trees, yeah, so these trees in laboratory settings, they can improve the yield up to double, So
Wow.
say that a traditional tree would, or a previous generation tree would, at their prime, would achieve maybe 5 tons of CPO per hectare per year, and then the new ones could do up to 10. But of course, in real life, it's probably not going to be double. But if we can achieve 70% improvement, that would already be very good.
Yeah. You're cloning another Elon Musk per se. I mean, in layman terms, that's very interesting. Interesting info that you have shared.
Yeah.
The
So
super
so
trees.
so
Yeah.
when if you look at the competing oils, which are all seasonal cash crops,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There you've seen the increases in yield. Um, they've all increased their yield by magnitudes, right? By several times. And that is because every generation only takes a few months, so they can quickly, increase the yield. But for the palm tree, every generation takes, 25
Tens of
years or so.
years.
Yeah, so what it means is that there's still a lot of potential. So even though it is the highest yielding vegetable oil, um, uh, you know,
Yep.
tree or whatever you call it, that there's potential to further increase the yield, we believe, even without resorting to GMO.
Okay, so there's a follow-up question from Ting Chuan. Is there any plans for JR to move beyond Indonesia, let's say in Papua New Guinea, PNG, I hope that's correct, Africa, or even Malaysia, Latin America?
Yeah, so Malaysia, yeah, that would only be inorganic, right? That would be where you acquire an existing plantation. And as you may know, M&A activity has been very limited in this industry.
Yeah.
That is because there's no need. It's not like you need to be a big player to make money. Even the small players can survive nicely, typically. So that's why asking prices are typically too high to have attractive M&A. So therefore, yeah, Malaysia probably unlikely. Latin America, yeah, it seems that the business model. There's several reasons that the potential is not expected to be in Latin America, because they typically grow cash crops, and they don't have these. They don't what happened in Indonesia, Malaysia, where you have these long-term projects. Apparently, that's difficult to achieve in Latin America. So we see little growth coming from there. Africa, a number of years ago, Africa was considered the promised land for palm oil, because palm oil originally comes from there. If you're close to the equator, then the weather conditions, climate conditions are favorable for palm oil, and that's why many operators and several Malaysian players as well, like Sundarby, KLK, and so on. They also and Golden Agri as well. We all started operations in Africa, but the operating conditions turned out to be very challenging. You typically don't have a stable government. The infrastructure or even the education levels are typically not there compared to Malaysia, Indonesia. So what you find is that most operators have pulled back out of Africa. So for Golden Agri, we still have an investment there. It's a relatively small operation of about 20,000 trees, and we continue to operate that. Just to have a foothold, but we have also scaled back our plans to expand that further for the time being.
Okay.
So what it means is that we see little opportunity for palm oil production to grow, but that just adds to the fundamental tightness in supply and demand, which we believe is favorable for the palm oil prices.
Yep. I mean, in this region in Southeast Asia, I think this where the terrain do plays a role, and also the stability of even infrastructure and even power and water supply is a great role.
Yeah, that's
okay.
what everybody found out the hard way, unfortunately.
Well, is there any more question from Ting Chuan? We're actually doing not too bad on time, Richard. Despite me having been a bit too noob in this plantation field, right? I'm learning so much now. I mean,
that's
thank
great.
you for
And everybody who listens learns, so that's good.
Yeah, do really appreciate your time and session here, and for the benefit of our investors that joined tonight. So yeah, so let me check if there's any more questions. So if there's no more questions, I might want to ask Richard on his bit off from the plantation side, more on your experience in the capital market. What's the differentiating factor when you talk to investors that you met? Obviously, it's from all around the world. ESG, I think we can take that topic off. They will always be penalizing us for being Asian, or I mean, the stigma of it is there. But when you talk to investors, right, what are the feedbacks that you get from the ground that sets you apart as compared to the names of the other players? Because the way I look at it, the valuation of Golden Agri is not entirely demanding for the size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point, and that's something that frustrates us, just as much, as we do believe we are one of the best operators in the industry.
Yep.
But this is not reflected in the valuation. Yeah, there's several factors. Of course, you cannot compare us to the Malaysian operators. They are trading at much higher valuations for different reasons, I think. But even compared to the Singapore-listed operators, we do trade at a discount. One reason might be that some of these smaller players like Bumitama, First Resources, their age profile is typically younger, so they still have more growth, coming out of their existing trees. Although that is also tapering off, I think. But they have achieved higher margins because of that in the past compared to Golden Agri. Yeah, I think Golden Agri management, they take a very long-term view.
That's good.
I think, yeah, well, you can say it's good, but it's it's not good for. I mean, the typical fund manager these days looks out 3 months maybe, right? So
Tell me about it.
it's not even a joke, So
It's
what
not.
it
It's
means
not.
is
It's not.
so what it means is when you talk about, okay, we are investing in technology, which will help us in the next 5 to 10 years, then their eyes already glaze over, right? Because that's not going to be reflected in the results anytime soon. And also when it comes to dividends, the company is fairly conservative, simply because they do continue to see opportunities to reinvest and to innovate, to make the business better in the long term. But I think this is not always appreciated by the market, and I think that is probably one of the main drivers why Golden Agri is trading at a discount.
Just a quick one. I've not been following like very closely. Do you have actually set outright dividend policy or?
Yeah. So we have a dividend policy to pay out up to 30% of underlying earnings.
Okay, cool.
And in the past, we did pay out at the higher end of that range. But as you can see,
Yeah.
well, when earnings went up, then they say, okay, we don't have to pay out such a high percentage because the dividend is good anyway, right? But then, yeah, for 2023, we paid out a relatively modest 18%, and we did get some feedback on that from investors.
Probably they want to round it up to 20.
Yeah, so I think I mean the argument was, okay, we have this high interest environment, right, and we don't want to leverage and pay, but you have to weigh off everybody's concerns, and I think the point was taken by management that investors, they do want to see some return. Yeah, hopefully this will balance out in the coming periods.
Okay, there is a follow-up question from Deng Chuan. Would you look at expansion in other crops or even forest plantation?
I don't know, forest plantation, I don't know what that is, to be honest with you. Okay, well, maybe, I mean, we are actually, oh yeah, I mean, that's what I hear, that, because of sustainability is such a big concern, that if you reforest areas, that there could actually be financial reward for that, Of course, you have carbon credits, but some other mechanisms as well. So that's certainly something that we would be we would be open to, I mean, we have an extensive sustainability team that, that really is at the forefront of all these sustainability initiatives. And that is certainly something that we would be open to, together with these rehabilitations or reparations, I think they call it, of, for example, peatlands, or even mangrove forest, the water. So we are looking at ways to improve the environment, and if we can get a return on that, that would be even better, of course. Other crops, well, some of our peers have moved into other crops, and for Golden Agri, we really believe that the strength is in the palm oil. the palm tree. So we used to do some rubber and some other things, but we actually converted that to palm because that turned out to be the best model for Golden Agri. We do, of course, trade other um, commodities, as I mentioned, sugar, sunflower, and soybean. But I think it will probably stay in the downstream rather than in the upstream.
Okay. Okay. So it's about 9 soon. Do you want to be punctual, or do you want to take one more question from the floor?
If there is,
Yeah.
certainly. Yeah,
Ding
or
Chuan,
if
do
you
you
have a
have any more
question, yeah.
questions? On the ESG front, and probably I take it the last one to wrap the session now. On ESG part, uh, I mean, there are standards that to be, it's like a report card to score. And have you guys, I mean, already in one of these radar of all these ESG scoring methodologies that to be rated in the market, especially when you guys are a public listed company? Like it's like a FTSE for good, your ESG score is like how many star,
Yeah,
millions of it,
yeah. No, there's many.
Yeah.
FTSE for good, we were in there, but we were taken out, I think, because of our market cap not being high enough. Because,
Oh,
they keep changing their standards.
okay.
We are also in SPOT. We do CDP, the Carbon Disclosure Project. And then, of course, we have the mandatory disclosure standards like TCFD, Task Force for Financial Disclosure. And then we follow the GRI, the Global Reporting
Mm,
Initiative,
mm,
and which will be, and then because Singapore is very progressive in their sustainability reporting
yeah.
requirements, so they're going to adopt the new IFRS, the
Mm,
ISSB, I think it's called, International Sustainability Standard something, and that is something that we will also definitely integrate in our sustainability report. So we have a separate sustainability report for the last couple of years already, which is an extensive piece of work, and that continues to expand. So TCFD is already in there, and any new standards, we are keen to
okay.
report on how we are doing.
Okay. That's very comforting to know. It's a very positive things to go. And yeah, it's the big
Yeah,
topic.
it's important because, as I said, the global view of palm oil is still that it is one of the major contributors to deforestation, which you and I know is totally not true. I mean, soybean cattle, they have multiple
Oh,
times,
well.
right, in
Yeah.
terms of deforestation. But if you talk to the average European, when you talk about deforestation, it's still palm oil is still top of mind, which is very sad. So hopefully all these new initiatives in terms of sustainability reporting will be tools, to prove that
Yep.
palm oil is produced in a sustainable manner or can be produced
Yep.
in a sustainable
Yep. Okay, I think let's wrap the session up for tonight. Thank you very much, Richard, for your
Thank you,
time.
Adrian.
Thank you, Pinta, also, and my colleagues that hosted managed to arrange this session, and all the other investors that spent the time with us tonight. So, if you have any more questions, I think you can always pop it to us, and we can relay it to Richard and the team. As for in terms of replay, we will upload it to YouTube within a week's time. So do stay tuned for it. And no one will be left out on this investment journey. So do stay tuned for more. Yep. Thanks a
Okay.
lot, Richard.
Thank you.
Good
Bye
night.
bye, everybody. Good night.
Bye, guys. Love you guys. Bye.